a little bit closer.
Well, we're trying not to be too greedy. We were very excited to win 3 Junos, especially because although we had been nominated in the past, we have never won a Juno in Canada. So this was the first time in 16 years that we actually won. And so I think we would have been happy with even 1 or 2, but to get 3, we were just elated. We were very excited. For us, especially winning Pop Album of the Year, because we had, significantly changed our sound between our previous albums and this one, at least in the mind of, in the listeners and the media. So to have them, recognize us in a totally new category and to win that category felt particularly validating and also just open-minded, because for us, like, we've been making rock music and indie pop music for a long time, and to have our industry say, oh, this is a new thing and you did a good job, made us feel really excited about the future too. We've actually discussed in the past how a lot of people think that we're an American band because we spend a tremendous amount of time in the United States touring. We are Canadian. we were born and raised in Canada, but it is true that our focus and our ambition was to be an international band. We wanted to tour Europe, Australia, Mexico. We wanted to be more than just a band that could tour in Canada. So we've spent a lot of the last 10 years hammering away at other territories and trying to make our band well known there. So this was cool too about the Junos, because it's sort of like we've been outsiders in a way in the Canadian industry, and this was a way of sort of like kind of like being together and being like celebratory but together, I think that we obviously are influenced by each other very much, the United States and Canada. There is a transfer of ideas and sounds and producers and musicians, so you get music that sort of sounds the same. But I think culturally there's a difference, like coming from Canada where there's a lot of support from the government. We get a lot of Art Council factor grant type stuff, so there's like money that the government will give Canadian bands in order to help them propel into different territories or success on a different level. And US bands, it's totally different. They're really like fighting each other. They're on their own. And so I think there's more camaraderie in Canada, like between the bands, because you come up together and there's less competition. And in the US, you're competing all the time, for airplay, for print and media and that sort of thing. So it's definitely, you have to be really tough to compete in the United States. We try to not influence our set list too much with our own personal feelings. After so many years of being in a band, what seems to be the most successful for us is to play what the audience wants to hear. I would never play a show and not play the hits, or our most popular songs, because that's what people want to hear. And then we try to put rarities or B-sides or things in every once in a while, so that for the really hardcore fan, that they get to see those things too. But I really like to be a people pleaser. I just want everyone to feel like they heard their favorite song. We talk about longevity in our band all the time. Most bands, maybe they'll be around for a handful of records, maybe 10 years, and then they break up and they go on to do other things. And with this band, we kept saying, okay, we've been around for so long, how do we continue to be interesting to people? How do you surprise people? How do you inspire them if you don't change? And this record was purposefully more mainstream because we wanted to introduce ourselves to a whole new generation of people who didn't know our early records or who were kids when we first put out records, So we wanted to do something that was totally different and modern, and I didn't want to alienate like our other fans, so we had to think really hard about, okay, the songs have to be Tegan and Sara songs, but they have to sound like nobody's heard Tegan and Sara sound before. You know, I think for myself anyway, I'm an okay guitar player. I can intuitively write songs, and I have interesting thoughts about guitar, but there's something about using a keyboard or programming drums, or, you know, I guess using music programs in a very modern way that has become an instrument unto itself. Do you know, like it's like the computer for me is now like a guitar. It's like I can go in and make a song on the computer, and it's just as inspiring as if I pick up my guitar and play it. So the thing about the synthesizer and keyboards, it's that they allow, for me anyways, more flexibility and bigger ideas. You know, right from the beginning of our career, we thought it was really important to write down all the things that we wanted to accomplish with our music. Like, simple things like, we want to play theaters. Like, I remember saying to my manager, I want to be able to play theaters, you know? And then being able to reach those goals, it suddenly becomes less daunting. A lot of musicians now feel like there are so many other bands and so many opportunities, they get overwhelmed. And it's like, if you just set goals for yourself, it'll become easier to see what kind of band you are. And so whenever I meet new young musicians, I'm always like, write down what it is that you want and then work towards it. It sounds so simple, but without a plan, it can just, I mean, you can just spin your wheels forever, you know? Yes, I do. Our first concert was the New Kids on the Block in 1989. Yeah, 1989. We were just little kids, and we loved New Kids on the Block. And I can remember the concert still. I was so excited. I had never experienced anything like that, and it was crazy. And my second concert was Bruce Springsteen. I know, I was a very versatile child. I listened to a lot of different kinds of music. After New Kids on the Block and Bruce Springsteen, I couldn't tell you what my next one was. I mean, then I just started seeing all kinds of concerts. I'm really a big reader. Like, I read a lot, but over the last few years, the time that I spend reading has been challenged by the time I watch TV. I've become obsessed with television again, and not since I was a kid have I watched as much television as I watch now. I think it's a golden age of TV. There are so many phenomenal shows and stories, and in particular the last 10 years I think have just been amazing. And so I find myself dividing my time watching TV and then thinking I should read a book. You know, I need to shut the TV off and go read again. My favorite series, I think, is The Wire. I thought it was so brilliantly done, and I thought it was a really innovative show, and it really touched on a lot of things that I think about and I care about. Class politics, racism, you know, drugs, the inner workings of politics and cities, and so I loved that. That was my favorite. Off of the new record, we play a song called Shock to Your System, and it's a song that I really enjoyed writing and recording, but I think the live version is where the song really lifts off. You know, it's like it needs to be played live to really reach its full impact, and so I enjoy playing it every night. Hey everyone, it's Sarah from Tegan and Sara, and you're watching Sopitas.com.